Okay, so we're back looking at the Megyn Kelly interview with John Ramsey. Um, and we're just going to kind of see what we find. Just been kind of looking at different contradictions. So here we go.
He saw it in my eyes. And that became the conclusion before they'd even looked at evidence or investigated anything. And
this is Linda Arndt.
Yeah. And just, we were just dealing with incompetence.
Well, in Linda's case, not just incompetence, but maybe a desire to cover up her incompetence, because isn't she the one who said, search the house after
John Ramsey said earlier on in the interview that he wasn't criticizing, if I remember correctly, that he wasn't criticizing their experience or anything like that or whatnot. He said he was criticizing the fact that they seemed like they wouldn't take help. And here we see within the same interview, John calling Linda Arndt incompetent. Now, Linda went through S abuse classes to make sure that she understood assault on that level to be able to point it out rather quickly. And so that's what they brought her in for. So that, number one, she's a detective, and number two, so that she could make sure, like, hey, if we run into anything, I know what it looks like. And so it makes sense that she was there, not only at the crime scene, but followed through to the autopsy with Dr. Meyer, and was pointing out different things and saying, oh yeah, this looks like assault. This looks like, okay, yeah, I recognize this. This looks consistent with this. And so now we're calling her incompetent. Now, I'm not saying that you can't disagree with somebody, even though they're professional. I'm not saying you can't agree or disagree with somebody, even though they're a professional. Maybe they have a PhD in something and they have years of experience. I'm not saying that. But, to say that that's not what you said and then come back and, all right.
7 hours of sitting there. She didn't search the house. The foot patrolman who got there per the 911 call earlier, he didn't search the house adequately. No. She didn't do it. And that's the reason you were put in the position of finding your own little girl.
No, that's not why. See, this is what I'm saying. Like, this foolishness. That's not true. Fleet White went down there and looked in the same room. So even if, according to you, even if Officer French would have looked in that room, he wouldn't have seen anything. Fleet White went down there and looked and didn't see anything. Your own best friend. Are you calling Fleet incompetent too? Get out of here. And then, because you want to clean up your language and say, oh, he didn't search it thoroughly. We were looking for exit points because you told me it was a kidnapping. That's the letter that you said you had. And we believed you. And now when I say, oh, there's no exit point here, or essentially the person couldn't have gone inside of this door and opened it up because they're like, oh, he said it was nailed shut. It wasn't. I mean, I don't live here, so I don't know if you nailed this door shut or what. But when I go to try to open the door, it's not coming open. I'm not going to force the door open. I'm not going to break your house. I'm not going to break things in your home. That's it. So when I try to open the door and you have, how would I know? How would I know you had like a little wood peg on top of the door? Why is that there anyway? Why do you have a wood peg on top of the door? Tell me that. Answer that question for me. Why do you have that on top of the door if you can just close the door like normal? I don't know the ins and outs of your home. I don't know what you have. So therefore, no. If it seems shut, then guess what? The person probably wouldn't escape out of here. Talking about, dude. Like these are the This is the misinformation that keeps people like, oh man, it doesn't make sense. This is nonsense, man. Come on.
Well, that's exactly right. In fact, to show you what kind of environment she was working in, the chief of police said, we didn't treat this as a crime scene because it was a kidnapping. And you just shake your head and think, oh, where do these people come from?
Horrifying. I mean, just because at that point they didn't know that it was a homicide, you got a 6-year-old girl who's been taken from her bed in the middle of the night. That's a 5-alarm fire.
Yeah, exactly. If that's not a crime, I don't know what it is. But that was the quote. Because I could give you a dozen quotes that were just astounding from the police department over the years. But that was really the first one that was just
amazing. This is amazing. I am astounded. What? Now you're criticizing the Boulder police for doing what you asked them to do? You wouldn't have listened to what they told you in the first place. At all. You wouldn't have. And now they're being criticized by you. This is in 2022. I don't remember, correct me in the chat, I don't remember John in all of the interviews that I've seen. I never hear John criticizing the Boulder police for treating the scene like a kidnapping. I never hear it. But now in 2022, after people have criticized police for doing that and saying, what were they thinking? Now John comes up with a new narrative to criticize the police over. Oh, you guys treated it like a crime scene because you called and told me that there was a ransom note. Number one. Number two, I tried to talk to your wife more, but she hung up the phone on me. So we had no choice but to send somebody over. And guess what? When I arrived, you showed me the ransom note and I checked the premises and you said your daughter was gone. What else should I be doing? I get criticized for treating this like a kidnapping. But then in the midst, when I say this is no longer a kidnapping, it's a homicide, the same day you say, you guys switching from homicide and now you're looking at me. What? Well, at least we're treating it like a crime scene, right? Nah, you guys should be looking at me because you should have moved on quickly. With what evidence? What evidence would have helped us move on from you two to look for somebody else? What evidence? Okay. I'm glad I watched this interview. This is wild.
Unbelievable.
What about the misspellings and the improper grammar and the use of the word attaché, which is not really a thing we say in America? It can mean either, diplomatic assistant, or it can mean bag in the way they're using it here. But it's a bizarre, we're a small foreign faction. Just for people who think, forgive me again for raising your son. He too was ruled out, as I understand it, by the DNA in 2008. But this is not the writing of a 9-year-old. We're a small foreign faction. Like people, you got to use your head.
Right. I mean, we've already gone over this. I just want to make sure we're all clear. Technology in VA Supplemental Forensic Case Report, May 12th of 2008. This is what Mary Lacy exonerated. This is one of the reasons Mary Lacy gave, that she exonerated the Ramseys and just couldn't understand why. Just could not understand why. For the trauma that we've caused, the pain that we've caused your family. List of evidence received on April 18th of 2008 for possible DNA analysis, labeled as Barbie Nightgown, CBI number 17. you have different pieces, part A, part B, part C, and part D. Part A is going to be the exterior and the interior of the bottom front of the nightgown. Part B is going to be the exterior of the left shoulder region, front and back of the nightgown. Just looking on the outside of the left shoulder, front and back. Part C is going to be the exterior of the right shoulder region, front and back of the nightgown. Part D is going to be the exterior and the interior of the bottom back of the nightgown. Okay. And as soon as we get here, part A, you remember what part A is? Exterior and interior of the bottom front of the nightgown. In terms of part A, the DNA profile obtained contains a mixture of at least 2 individuals, including the victim and at least one male contributor. The individuals associated with samples John B. Ramsey, John Andrew Ramsey, and Melinda Ramsey are excluded as possible contributors to the mixture profile obtained on part A. The individuals associated. Y'all can't see that. You can't. I know you can't. So I'll make it bigger so you can see. You know what? Just take me out of the picture. I want to make it even bigger so you can see more. So it's clearer. Contributors to the mixture profile obtained on the sample. The individuals associated with Burke Ramsey and Patricia Ramsey cannot be excluded as possible contributors. This is language. I want to show you the difference in language because we're talking about the nightgown, talking about part B. Now, part A was the exterior and the interior bottom front. Now we're going to look at part B, exterior of the left shoulder, front and back. Blah, blah, blah. The individuals associated with Burke Ramsey and Patricia cannot be included or excluded. It means it's possible that their DNA is on the left shoulder, front and back of that Barbie nightgown. Going to the right shoulder, front and back. Part C, John Andrew, and Melinda, they're excluded. They're not in it. But the individuals associated with Burke and Patsy cannot be in or out. We're not sure. And that's on the right shoulder, front and back. Part D, exterior and interior of the bottom back of the nightgown. Part D, Patsy, John Andrew, Melinda, they're excluded. Good to go. But Burke, we don't know. He can't be included or excluded. We don't know. But I'll tell you what we do know. Part A, interior and exterior of the bottom front of the nightgown. Burke and Patsy touch that. What do they call it? CBI number 17. What is CBI number 17, you might ask? Colorado Bureau of Investigations Laboratory Report. Investigated by Detective Thomas Trujillo. Date completed January 9th of 1997. Examined by Joe R. Clayton, Jr., Laboratory Agent Criminalist. CBI number 17, the nightgown. Right here. It's the nightgown. It's the nightgown right here. We're going to go down just a little bit because we want to see they ran a bunch of tests. I think I went too far. Sorry. Blood was indicated on the following exhibits: number 5 and number 7 and number 15. Number 5, there was blood on the shirt. Number 7, there was blood on the underwear. Number 15, blood on the piece of tape. Obviously, they, took the tape off of her mouth. She had blood coming out of her mouth on the other side. Blood was indicated on the following exhibits, because that's A, B, C, D, and E. I don't know what those are. I don't see that on this report, but apparently that's different points on the shirt. And then 16A, 16, white blanket. So there's a little blood on the blanket. But the nightgown, 17, there's blood all over the nightgown. A, B, C, D, and E. And guess who they found that they could not exclude? Burke and Patsy Ramsey cannot be excluded. Not included and excluded. They cannot be excluded. That means we're certain that their hands were on this nightgown, both of them. A nightgown that Patsy said she did not put JonBenet in. Her fingerprints are on that nightgown. A nightgown that came from JonBenet's bathroom, where Burke is not said to have done the laundry, only Patsy and the maid, the housekeeper. So how does Burke's handprints or there's his DNA and Patsy's DNA get on the nightgown when Patsy couldn't find the nightgown, so she left JonBenet in something else? And Burke's DNA, when Burke didn't even touch her. But their fingerprints or their DNA is found on a garment that they say they don't recognize, it shouldn't be down there, that has blood on it. Oh, okay. Oh, okay. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. But somehow, some way, yeah, we don't know. Yeah.
But anyway, these misspellings and improper, they're using it here, but it's a bizarre, they said that we're a small foreign faction. Just for people who think, forgive me again for raising your son, he too was ruled out, as I understand it, by the DNA in 2008. But this is not the writing of a 9-year-old. We're a small foreign faction. Like people, you got to use your head.
Yeah.
But anyway, these misspellings.
Yeah, I guess we do. We also got to use our forensic brains too, don't we? Yeah, we should do that.
The improper grammar throughout tells us something. It could be used intentionally, but this doesn't sound like a.
You're worried about grammar on a ransom note, and this man's child and his wife, his ex-wife, rest in peace, Patsy, their DNA is on a shirt with blood on it to their daughter who's been murdered in the house. I just, maybe cops solved crimes like that before, just saying.
Very well-educated person.
No, I got a letter. We got a lot of people trying to help, and I got a letter from a teacher she taught English to non-English speaking people. And she said the misspellings in this are typical of a Hispanic person migrating to English, based on her experience teaching them to read and write English and speak English. And I thought that was pretty interesting, and possibly could explain that. And, we were a subsidiary of Lockheed Martin, and, or at that time, just Lockheed. No, I take that. Let's see. Well, anyway, Lockheed Martin bought Lockheed sometime in there, but they required us to put a sign on the front of our building, which was downtown Boulder, a Lockheed Martin corporation. And at the time, I thought that's like waving a red flag in front of a bull. Boulder's an ultra liberal place, and to put I'm sure in their minds, a manufacturer of weapons sign in downtown Boulder was just inviting trouble. It made me nervous, frankly, to do that at the time.
Right, and they referenced your company. We
Yeah.
We do respect your business, spelled wrong, spelled Bussi, a double S, SSINESS, but not the country that it
Yeah.
serves. So
What? It's going to be 1 in 50,000 in the U.S. Caucasian population, 1 in 220,000 in the U.S. African American population, 1 in 43,000 in the U.S. Southwest Hispanic population, and 1 in 58,000 in the Southeast Hispanic population. And so what he's pulling from are these odds. There are tighter odds here in what he's pulling from. Now, I said, when I was trying to research this, I said, does that mean that it's more likely that the individual was Southwest Hispanic? And my research said, no, you can't pull, you can't, it doesn't work like that. From what I was researching, said it doesn't work like that. You can't just think, oh, this is most likely for someone from the Southwest Hispanic population. Doesn't work like that. And Southwest makes sense because you're talking about Boulder, Colorado. But anyways, it said it doesn't work like that. It's just kind of telling you kind of the pool of people where it may have come from. It's not to say that this person was Hispanic, but it's just to say, or was white, or what have you. What it is saying is that it could come from somebody who had those genes or something like that. I may not be explaining it right, but somebody who may have had sort of that I want to say I'll say genealogy, like the genes or something like that, and whatever within their DNA structure, so that you could say, oh, he could be a little bit of Hispanic, he could be a little bit of uh, Asian, or he could be like European or something like that, or so on and so forth. Could be all of these different things, but he's 45% more of this or whatever. So that could be just a little bit of that. John is leaning heavily on that to grab this, bruh. And he tries to make the case that, apparently this Hispanic individual, because look, come on, man, we're talking, if we were talking about a Hispanic individual, it would be from the U.S. Southwest population, someone in the U.S. That's not a foreign faction, dude. We're reaching, that's not foreign faction, bro. We're talking about, like, you're trying to take, because if we're talking about someone in the U.S., gotta be kidding me with this. Somebody, say from Mexico. We're looking for somebody from Mexico or South America or what have you. I guess, that's what we're talking about now. Like, we're looking for a Hispanic from South America. That's where we're looking now. You have got to be kidding me. A Hispanic from Southwest America who's jealous of you got in contact with somebody from Access Graphics and had some sort of issue. Can we look up the any in 1996 any issues between Access Graphics and anywhere in anywhere in South America? Can we look up any conflicts between Access Graphics and Lockheed Martin, specifically between Lockheed Martin and people in South America, to see if anybody may have had any qualms with Lockheed Martin? And can we trace through the United States the different places Lockheed had set up shop where somebody was like, oh, Boulder, Colorado. That's who I'm mad at. And calls the foreign faction and says, you know what? They call the cartel and they're like, hey guys, I'm over here visiting my family and I have a problem with this one John Ramsey guy. That guy's a real jerk. You know what? So you know what? I need guys, we need to stick it to this guy. This guy is a jerk. And he saw, why is that? Well, he just recently, he had a great business, but he went and put a Lockheed Martin sign. Who did Lockheed Martin have a problem with? That's what I'm saying. You see what this, I'm joking, but you see what this does? You see the maze, the loop. Now we're looking for somebody in the Hispanic population who hates Lockheed Martin. I thought we were looking for somebody who worked for Access Graphics. What? Are they a foreign faction? Are they somebody within the company? Oh. But what if somebody within the company was foreign and worked at Lockheed Martin? Ooh. What about that? Was it Jeff Merrick and Jim Marino? Jim Marino was ruled out. Jeff Merrick was ruled out. You would have to go looking for a Hispanic person. That's easy. Just go through all the Hispanic people on your payroll. You only have 330 people on your list. And if you have a branch in South America somewhere, that's easy. But somebody, maybe you're telling me somebody shipped your information overseas and, somebody got a hold of it and it's like, hey, we got some top secret information about one of the VPs at Lockheed Martin. What a jerk, blah, blah, blah. John, come on, man. It's like you're a computer distributor. What kind of target would you have on your back for $118,000, dude? Be real. Who is coming after somebody for $118,000 who distributes computers? The logic is so tied and twisted because it's like, are they kidnapping your daughter? And because they have the problem with you, or are they assaulting your daughter because they have a problem with you? Or what's their problem with you exactly? What have you done? Oh, I don't know what I've done. They just may not like me. Yeah. Did you make a decision about somebody in South America that they wouldn't like? Did you close down a plant or something? What would be the motivation? And you see what I'm saying? This is what we have to stop. These half-baked theories, quarter-baked theories that have no legs under them. Because this is what John Ramsey would send the police to do. Go look at this over here. This theory is dead in the water. This theory doesn't have anything behind it. And you want me to spend all my time? Do you know how much overtime the BPD put in? Spending the city's money? You want me to run behind you with these quarter-baked theories and just randomly talk about nonsense and look up nonsense and be like, oh man, you weren't really trying. If you were really trying, you would have looked it up. Come on, John, man. I mean, can I roll you out first? Can we have a conversation with you and then I can rule you out first, and then we can go into something, man? You gotta be kidding me.
Interesting. They clearly,
Yeah.
they're referencing something about what you do.
Yeah, that was bizarre as well. And I start, I'm of course trying to think who this possibly could have been, and I wondered at times whether this was a kind of a amateur terrorist group or person that fantasized some things, and
I'm sure you got to consider everything. I mean, the guy, really, the Unabomber, he used to write about himself as we, and suggest it was some sort of international thing. Like he wanted to make himself sound bigger and more important than just an I. And this guy slips into the first person later in the ransom note. But yeah, it wouldn't be unusual for an individual to try to make themselves sound bigger or more nefarious. in this way.
Very true. Now, I really do subscribe to John Douglas's theory that this was somebody that wanted to hurt me, and that's a tough burden to carry. But thankfully, John said you may not even know him. We'd been in the paper a few weeks before, having hit for us a significant sales goal, and our marketing people wanted to put it in the paper. And I sort of had this gut feeling that that's not really a good idea. But I wanted our people to be proud of their company, and so we did it. And that could have targeted me because I had a picture of me in quotes and stuff in the paper. That could have been
You never know how you're affecting a sick mind who's going to transfer onto you. Who knows?
Yeah, that's the problem. We had people, we hired 2 detectives to work this early on because we knew the police weren't capable of it. And in fact, we tried very hard in the early days to get the case moved somewhere else to another jurisdiction. They could have put it in the sheriff's department's office, which is a competent organization, or was at the time, and had dual authority over it. We could have very easily had a sheriff's officer come to our home that morning instead of the city police department. And that was a tragic first mistake. I guess that's or luck of the draw that's what happened. So, it just wasn't ever burden to carry. But thankfully, John said you may not even know him. We'd been in the paper a few weeks before, having hit for us a significant sales goal, and our marketing organization, or was at the time, and had.
So John was like, man, I have a bad feeling about this. I don't think we should be put in the paper, but let's go ahead and plan a party so that we look good in the paper. You guys, now, Lockheed, you guys are going to put a little plaque on our door. You guys are going to put a sign on our door stating that we're a Lockheed Martin company. I don't know about that, man. I'm unsure about that. It kind of feels like you're putting a target on our back. John, if you felt like working for Lockheed Martin in general in Colorado would have put a target on your back, who did you mention that to ever? Like, if you thought, who can we go talk to and say, did John ever communicate to you his concern of, just working with Lockheed Martin and whether Lockheed Martin was a good fit to buy the firm? Did he ever mention that at all? Right? Because what we would have heard was John is, and that's the thing about it too. If you're trying to make an insinuation that Boulder is this liberal town and you are a Republican, and I would suspect that you're pro-military. And if you're trying to suggest that Lockheed Martin is pro-military in some way, then what would be your problem? It almost seems like maybe you're liberal. I don't know. The way you're describing it, you're just uncomfortable with pro-military stuff. I'm confused. Like, why would you sign the contract or sign on and not be able to say, hey, I'm not comfortable with this. Go ahead and sign me out. Go ahead and give me a severance package. If we're going to transition over, I don't want to run this company, and just continue to let Jim Hudson run it. I'm confused because you ran it for 3 or 4 years and you ran it from like $16 million in sales to $1 billion. You didn't ever want to get off the train. Sounds like you were having a good time. You weren't worried about any threats prior to. We can't go to anybody and be like, oh, was John ever concerned about threats? No, nobody's going to say that.
Dual authority over it. We could have very easily had a sheriff's officer come to our home that morning instead of the city police department. And that was a tragic first mistake. I guess that's or luck of the draw. That's what happened. So, it it just wasn't ever properly handled, and to this day is still not properly handled.
Well, and the theory that it's someone who didn't like you, because of course the other theory is that it's some, right? That's what a lot of people believe.
Those are the
it's a
two
little
conflicting,
girl.
and I thought at the time, conflicting theories between John Douglas and Lou Smith. But
well, I thought we were talking about someone who knew you versus random intruder, but random intruder doesn't necessarily mean to get your little girl, right? Because that's one of the questions in the case about whether she was the victim of somebody who was or whether it was somebody who just hurt her, right? Because it was unclear. Forgive me for the details, John, but it was unclear whether she was by a man.
Well, first of all, this was not a random intruder. This is somebody who had watched us, knew what our patterns were, knew we were going to be out that evening. Left the note on the back stairway, which is the stairway we always used, but would not have been obvious to somebody that just came into the house. We had a front stairway, but we never used that.
Your words betray you, my friend. Your words betray you very much, my friend. This is too easy. It's like taking candy from a baby. Okay, so John and Patsy normally coming through the garage, they use the steps, the back steps 95% of the time, which makes sense if you're going through the garage and whatnot. So I have no problem there. So it actually makes it harder for me to believe that it makes it harder for me to believe that somebody locked this door, locking John out of the house that previous summer. Because I'm struggling with that one. Because if you have a garage door opener and this door is usually locked, as you say, this door is usually open, I mean, there's no problem unless somebody locks this. But if you use this staircase 95% of the time, that means that you're coming from the garage. Because I was like, why would John and Patsy, in order to get to where they're going, why would they use these steps? Because if your bed is all the way over here and the spiral staircase, to access the spiral staircase, you have to go, your bed is right here. You can go down step 1 and then, that step. And then right here, because you're coming down right here, and then you're going down right here you're coming from the third to the second, right? You're coming from the third floor down to the second floor, boom, boom, and from the second floor down to the first floor, and then you go to the kitchen. But what John and Patsy are saying is that what would make sense is that we don't really use the front door, and that makes sense to me, because when we had a house in a certain place, and we always used the back door. Always used the back door. We used the back door so much I thought it was the front door. And so when people would drop off packages to the front door, I would be like, why the heck are they dropping it off here? Because we use the back door so much. So you use the back door, so I have no problem with that, because you're coming in the garage so much and you're going boom, boom. So this always stays open. So I'm struggling with the fact that somebody would have locked this, because that would mean that Patsy would have locked herself out. There would have been no muscle memory in that Patsy would have gone through to lock this door and lock herself and John out, because that assumes, because Patsy is volunteering, and that assumes that John would have gotten home before Patsy. And John is always gone doing whatever. So that I have no problem with that. That makes sense. That's fine. But there are certain reasons it does make sense. And so basically, well, let me just finish my thought. What you're saying is I come up here to spiral staircase and I head to the second floor and I end up here on the second floor. And then I come around this little partition and I go to this up to the third floor and I end up over here and I come over to my bed. I am perfectly placed here in between the bathrooms, the closet, the dressing rooms, and then I get dressed or whatever, and then I come over here, sit in front of the fireplace, enjoy a nice cup of tea or what have you, and then I read over here, read a little book over here, or take a phone call, and then if I need to go to bed, I just come over here and go right to bed. No problem with that. Now, I do start to find that makes sense. John came up to bed shortly, going to bed on the 25th. So down here, Burke was here on the floor by the Christmas tree. And so what's taking place is, I think we're here on the floor by the Christmas tree. He's on the floor by the Christmas tree. And Mike Kane says, do you remember what it was he was playing with? John Ramsey says, some kind of little square car elevator. I don't know. It was something only a child would appreciate, but it was like a car garage repair thing. Elevators run up and down and stuff, little micro cars. I remember that. I had one of those. I don't remember having to assemble it, though. I don't. I feel like it came assembled. Yeah, because I feel like that came assembled. So he's talking about something like this. I remember this because I used to have this. I loved it. He's talking about this. This is available at Best Buy. I didn't have a Hot Wheels one, but it was something similar, if I remember correctly. You kind of do all these loops. I think the one I had like a legitimate garage where you can put cars in and stuff like that. I wanted to look at the assembly of it though. And so this guy from Blaggle Toys was nice enough to give us an unboxing and review of it.
Hey everyone, in this video,
and I might kind of skip past a little bit, okay?
I'm going to do a little unboxing and review of the Micro Machines Park and Go Garage Play Case. These started popping up in stores right around August 2020, and of course these are the new Micro Machines that are back in 2020. They haven't been around since the early or mid 2000s or so. So it's been a while, but they're kind of making a comeback. And as you can see, they went and used the old style 90s logo, and they kind of touched it up a bit just so that it's a little bit more modern, but it's kind of keeping true to the old style logo and everything. And this is kind of a classic style playset piece here that once you open it up, and it features this spiral gravity ramp here, which is pretty sweet, to universal track. So yeah, basically I'll just show you this cardboard cover here, a good look at this before. All right, so here is a first look at the front of the Park and Go garage with that cardboard removed, and as you can see, it's a really, really nice looking front design here. It's got this really nice Micro Machines logo along the top, and you also have one along the bottom. Kind of looks like a really kind of classic style parking garage entrance there, which is really neat. You got this flip down ramp, which probably easier to open once you've got the thing opened up. You've got these ladders here, which are really nice, and these can also kind of help hold this in place too. So kind of they kind of have like two. But yeah, basically this is the front. It looks very nice, and it reminds me so much of the old style one that they had back in the day, which kind of had a similar look to it. This one is a little bit different, of course, but sure had a similar look. So now I just got to figure out somehow. I want to make sure I'm kind of being careful so I don't damage anything, but that actually popped open quite easily there. So inside, you can see what we've got. Had this little
As you can see, that took 3 minutes and 25 seconds to get out of the box and open with him talking. That is something that we're expected to believe that Burke could not have opened up himself while John was gone for 3 hours, or done himself for 3 hours. Now, I will say this. Probably playing the N64, you got your friends over. You probably don't even want to be bothered with that. So you come home and you want to put something like that together. I get it. No problems there. But something only a child would appreciate. And this is coming from the 1998 interview with John. This is Candy Rose's version, or I got from her website. Only something a child would appreciate: car repair thing, car garage repair thing, elevators run up and down and stuff, little micro cars. Mike Cain said, when you took him up to bed, I imagine you went up the front steps. John Ramsey said, yeah. To the bedroom. John Ramsey said, right. Michael Cain says, we are back in the back part of the house. And John says, no. That's not the back part of the house. It's the front. All right. From that point, you do go right to your bedroom. John Ramsey says, I think so. Up the next set of steps. And John says, as I recall, yes. I just remember going up to bed. Mike Cain says, and you said you may have read a little while. John says, I think I did, a few pages, but I fell asleep pretty quick. Mike Cain says Patsy was already in bed. John Ramsey says, yes. Patsy was already in bed. John Ramsey says, yeah. Mike Cain says, in the morning after Patsy came running up the steps, blah, 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 blah. Now, Dad confirmed he went up the front, but looking up here, went upstairs. She was in bed, John Ramsey says, and this is coming from the April 97 interview, talking to Tom Trujillo and Steve Thomas. She was in bed when I went to go to bed. I remember that. Tom says, and you guys have kind of separate bathrooms there. You guys are getting ready about the same time then. John says, I don't really remember Patsy getting ready at the same time, but I can remember she was in bed when I went to bed. And Tom says, okay, but about actually which staircase did you use to get upstairs? And Tom says front or back, and John says the front. And so, okay, you came to the top of the stairs after helping Burke get ready for bed, you recall. But John and Patsy said that they normally used the back stairway, I think 95% of the time. So and so forth, or I guess I'll just go here. Patsy screams. John says he meets Patsy downstairs. Okay, so you run downstairs. Where was Patsy at when when she was running up the stairs? John says, well, I don't remember exactly, but I think she was kind of either coming up the spiral staircase or was fully up. I just kind of remember kind of meeting her. Actually, and Tom says, actually, why don't I just talk to you and I'll go back and try to get some of the things, okay? Talking to Patsy in 1997. Are you guys using the back part of the house to go up and down? Patsy said, yeah. Okay, for the most part. Okay, cool. Okay, the note was on the floor and John was reading it when you called the police. Is that right? When I was calling the police, yeah. He was on the floor there in the back hall. Okay, and you don't recall who laid the note down there? Right. And so in 1998, Lou Smith says, did she say how she first observed that? What caught her attention? John says, just that it was laying there. She came down the steps and said she first thought it was a note from the cleaning lady because it kind of looked like her handwriting. Just didn't put much account into it. I mean, what is somewhat meaningful is that 95% of the time we came up and down that stairway. And Lou says, yeah, you use it all the time. All the time. John says, in continuation, all the time. Mike Kane says, and would people know you used it? Seems like if you put something there, people would know. John Ramsey says, right. And Lou says, who would know that? And then John goes and says, I wish I knew. I mean, that's one of the things that perplexed us. Why not the front stairway? Which, you could very logically say, I came down that way. And Lou said, why not the bed or her bed? And John says, I don't know. And that's, in 98, in June of 98. And I think this is just kind of saying the same thing. Kind of who would know that. And so what is interesting to me is, if I can find it, and I'll probably go back and look at it. This part. When they asked, okay, so, and the note was on, because I just asked that. The note was on the floor, and John was reading it. And John said he had got down and sprawled the note out across the floor, and he was reading it. And so apparently he was downstairs, maybe at the bottom of the spiral staircase, reading the note when Patsy called the police at 5:52 a.m. John was down the stairs on his hands and knees, running around in his underwear. And PR said, when I was calling the police, yeah, it was on the floor there in the back hall. But somehow, some way, in 3 minutes, 2 minutes, John was there with Patsy while she was making the call to police. And John said he was in his underwear. And so this is where he kind of talks about it. Patsy finds the note. She screams. Patsy Ramsey woke up, went downstairs, back stairway, found the ransom note near the bottom, reads the first few lines, realized what it was, and ran back upstairs screaming for John. John apparently was up enough to meet Patsy. He was up so fast. He heard Patsy scream and knew it wasn't normal. But he was up he caught on so fast that he got down the stairs really quickly. Like he immediately knew something was so wrong that he got down the stairs. He probably jumped, you know how you go downstairs and you jump a few stairs to get down to the bottom faster. He knew something was so incredibly wrong that he immediately stopped what he was doing. Immediately. Because Patsy's reaction time, I'm saying that because Patsy's reaction time would have been significantly faster. She would have been up here and probably right here or partially up here by the time John froze, maybe he was brushing his teeth or shaving, froze and was like, because you don't immediately react to anything. You hear, your body's going to freeze for a second to take it in. Unless it's your baby and you hear, that you know something's wrong. The baby's crying. Now, if your baby's like 2 or 3 or something like that and you're somewhere else, or 5, say your baby's 5 or something like that, and you hear just a wail and you just immediately drop what you're doing and you're gone. In that case, yes, But Patsy is on the second. Patsy is right here because if the note was found like midway here, Patsy should easily be. If Patsy's like, and she turns around and she's gone up here, Patsy's like right here. Yeah. John is, whether he's here or here, we don't know. But Patsy had to scream so loud that Burke would have woken up. So when you tell me Burke is in his room sleep, I can't believe that, because Patsy screamed so loud that Burke would have been up for sure. And Burke would have came out and asked what's going on. Burke would have been curious. Burke wouldn't have stayed in the room if his mom screamed, because let me tell you this, like they said in the interview, Patsy said Burke sleeps with his room door partially cracked. And the light in the his room is dark, but the light in the bathroom is on. And so when, he can wander to the bathroom and stuff like that. And so Burke would have heard for sure all of the commotion going on downstairs, of people coming in and cops moving around the house and boom, 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 and all such as that. Burke would have been wide awake. Oh, absolutely. Burke would have been wide awake. They would have had to tell him, stay in your room. Because as a child, he's getting up to see what's going on unless he knows what's going on. Unless he knows why people are moving around. Because any kid, man, especially a 9-year-old, any kid is going to be up, peeking out the door. And if he hears police coming up the stairs and he knows he should be laying down, he's going to run and lay in bed and pull the covers over his body and face the wall. So if we're looking at Burke's room and Burke's bed is over here and he hears the police because the police are coming in the front door and they're standing here, he would hear them talking. And if he hears the police coming up, because his mom woke him up. If he hears the police and he's looking and listening, he has time to hear the police coming up this step, land on this landing spot. He's going to run to the bed, jump in the bed and cover himself and face this window and not move. But when the police come in and kind of open the door and shine the light around, he's going to lay there and not move. That's why I'm having a problem. Because the commotion. Like you said, I heard mom going psycho. Oh, I know you did. You heard everything going on. You heard the phone call. You heard everything. Oh, I thought my dad was downstairs chasing the bad guy. Maybe with I know you did. That tracks. Oh, absolutely. Patsy finds a note. She screams. Everybody in the house hears that, reads the first few lines. And John says, after hearing Patsy scream, John Ramsey ran downstairs. He stated he ran down the spiral staircase. He believes he met Patsy either on the second floor, landing, or partially down the stairs. Oh, ain't no way. That's what I'm saying. Ain't no way that Patsy screamed and was running upstairs and you met Patsy. And this is the second floor. Ain't no way that you met Patsy anywhere down here closer to the first floor. That would mean that Patsy didn't move. That would mean that Patsy was moving like a snail. Because if Patsy found the note somewhere around this step and she realized what it was and she took off back up here, you would have met her here. But you're saying that you met her here, possibly somewhere down here. Oh, ain't no way. Oh, ain't no way. See, I got to dissect it all the way down. Ain't no way, sir. There's no way that you could have caught Patsy here. Impossible. And these are coming from, I'm sorry for your reference. This is coming from the other side of suffering is what this is coming from the other. Well, some of it is coming from the other side of suffering. You got the other side of suffering here. Um, Patsy, uh, John, John, I found the ransom. I found a note on the stairs. It's a ransom note. She screams, frantic, John, there's a note. She rushes to JonBenet's room. Um, where does it say? Oh, someone has taken JonBenet. Patsy shrieks. I hurl myself down the spiral stairs to the back hallway to scoop up the 3-page. So I dropped my razor, rushed to the head of the stairs. What is it? JonBenet is gone. John, I found a ransom note. Okay, that makes sense. I don't agree, but I'll let that for now. It's okay. That's fine. Remember reading the first couple lines. I don't know. Blah blah blah. After the first couple lines, it dawned on me. Said something about we have your daughter. I ran back up the stairs and pushed open the door, and she wasn't in bed. Okay, and I screamed for John. He was up in our bedroom still, and she came running down. So Patsy is saying for sure in 1997, oh, I was up the stairs. In fact, I was up the stairs and I was checking on JonBenet. So you met me up the stair. You met me on the second plane for sure. For sure. Supplemental report. Patsy woke up, discovered the note. May have been left by the housekeeper. Sometime between 5:30 and 6 a.m. But anyways, the point that I was making. Both John and Patsy stated that John was in his underwear when he came downstairs. Patsy's interview. What should I do? Something, and I think he ran back and checked on Burke, and I ran back downstairs, and he came downstairs. He was just in his underwear, and he took the note, and I remember him being down, hunched on the floor, read with all three read with okay. Oh, okay, maybe he's read with all 3 pages out, like that, reading it, and he said, "Call 911, call the police." Or something, and then I did. I called them. So John is on the floor telling her to call 911. Yeah, in 1998, she goes on to say that so he was otherwise naked except for his briefs. Patsy said correct. Okay, so Patsy, Tom says, you said John leaves your sight. Patsy said, uh-huh. Do you know where he goes? Well, not exactly. Just presume he went upstairs to get dressed because he came back downstairs dressed. How long was he gone? I don't know. Oh, I don't know. 10 minutes? Oh, that's a big problem. Because they're saying that Patsy found the note at 5:45. They called the cops at 5:52. We got that. Boom, back. That's back to that's the hit. You called the cops at 5:52. So what time did John and Patsy say they found the ransom note? Yeah. Mm-hmm. No, let me see that. Sorry, I shouldn't have done that. The forensic files. About 5:45 on the following morning, Patsy awoke and discovered her daughter was missing. She discovered the 3-page ransom note, and this is coming from the forensic files. Search warrants. The note was found at approximately 5:45. That doesn't work. The timeline doesn't work at all because you found the note at 5:45 because you woke up at 5:30, discovered the note going downstairs because Patsy said, "I'm sorry I missed that." You said what you said what time you said? Patsy said sometime between 5:30 and 6. Walked around here to the bathroom and did not take a shower that morning, so I don't know, what exactly I did here. I mean, other than just getting dressed, I brushed my teeth and woke up and get ready to go. And I walked downstairs here, came to the landing, and there was an ironing board here, some clothes, a plastic bag kind of right here somewhere that I just had things I throw in to take on my trip. And I think I was there for a couple of minutes, just getting some clothes and things, and I started down the stairs. So she woke up. So from 5:30 to 5:45 in 10 minutes, or I'm sorry, in 15 minutes, she woke up and she was rushing because she says, I woke up, didn't take a shower, of course not. I got dressed and I brushed my teeth and I put on my makeup. If you can believe that Patsy woke up, got out of bed, no grogginess. Got out of bed, no grogginess. Because I was going to let the makeup thing go. And this is what she said in 1998. I'm telling you guys, something ain't right. There's the timeline don't work because you woke up at 5:30. You get dressed. Takes you 5 minutes. You brush your teeth. Takes you about another 2 minutes or something like 2 or 3 minutes, and then you get. This is assuming that you're rushing. You get back in your pants because you got to take off your nightgown because you said you got to take off your nightgown. You're not groggy. You put on your pants, and then you put on your shirt, and you walk casually over, and you brush your teeth, and then you put on your makeup on, maybe some mascara, easy, maybe some lipstick, easy, something like that. And then you say that you walk downstairs and you're just grabbing some things. And you say, I was here for a couple of minutes, maybe like 2 minutes, getting some clothes. And then I started downstairs to the kitchen. But you had a plastic bag in your hand. Where's the plastic bag? And I started down the stairs with a plastic bag in your hand because where did the plastic bag go? To go to the kitchen, and the note was on the landing. Yeah. Bottom of the stairs. At the bottom of the stairs, there was some lighting on, but it wasn't bright lights. And look, started reading the letter, and after the first couple sentences realized what's happening. So I ran back up these stairs. Okay, I pushed the door open to her room. Now, this is probably okay. So I get up. It takes me about 5 minutes to put on my clothes. It takes me about 2 or 3 minutes to brush my teeth. Takes me about 5 minutes to put on my makeup. I'm being very conservative here. I'm at 13 minutes, guys. And then plus the 2 minutes, that'd be 15 minutes. And I'm at 5:45, and she's packing her clothes at 5:45. Guys, I'm telling you right now, something ain't right. She's messing with the clothes at 5:45. And then she starts down the stairs. Takes about 30 seconds to a minute. Now I would imagine that she starts to slow down. That's probably about a minute. She takes about another minute, I'll say a minute and a half. So we're at 4:47 right now. I'll say a minute and a half to read to kind of vary. You know what? I'll say a minute. We're at 4:47 right now. And Patsy hasn't even turned around and said anything to John. She very kind of slowly reads the note. And she runs back upstairs and pushes the door to JonBenet's room. She's not in her bed. So I went over the stairs and I yelled to John, and he came down. And I said, she's been kidnapped. And I'm panicking. And I think I ran down the stairs again and I said, what do we do? What do we do? And he said, call 911. Call the police. I ran upstairs and I think, that don't make sense. Because you went to the top of the stairs and you said, JonBenet's been kidnapped. And I can't remember exactly what I did then, whether I think I ran down the stairs again. I said, what do we do? Well, you would have to. And he said, call 911. And I ran up the stairs. And I can't remember if I asked him to check on Burke. One of us checked on Burke. I remember just seeing him at the phone trying to. And then I looked down and John came down. And on the floor down here, I came here and John came down and I went to the telephone. So John was by the phone. This doesn't make sense. John is downstairs in his underwear. It is probably at this time, by the time you guys are talking and going along and blah, 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 blah. It's probably been, by the time you check on JonBenet and come back out and you're going back and going up and down, that's probably 2 minutes. We are at 19 minutes from 5:30. That's about 4:49. I would say dang near. I almost want to give it. I'm sorry. We're at 5:49. If I said 4, I misspoke. But we're at 5:49 here. The hard stop was 5:52. You got 3 minutes. If John went upstairs to get dressed and it took him 10 minutes, as Patsy is telling us, plus 10, that's 29 minutes. That's 6 o'clock. Officer French pulled up at 5:55 or 5:57. If it took John 10 minutes to get dressed, then John wouldn't have been meeting Officer French at any door. John was already dressed. He had to be. John was already dressed. No, ma'am. Mm-hmm. 5:55. First Officer Rick French, Boulder Police Department, arrived on the scene. Between 5:55 and 6:10, friends of the Ramsey family arrive, including Fleet. If friends of the Ramseys are arriving at 5:55, between 5:55 and 6, that means that they're coming in at the same time as Officer French is getting there. Some of the closest friends are arriving at the same time as police are walking in. That means you called them ahead of time. Yeah. It means you called them ahead of time. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. This timeline is messed up all over the place. I'm gonna shut it down there. I'm gonna shut it down there, but that timeline doesn't fit. I'm going off of what you told me. We'll continue next time looking at. I didn't know that this would be a treasure trove. I really didn't. I'm stunned. I'll be honest with you. I am stunned. But anyways, thanks for watching. Like, share, subscribe. Appreciate all your love and your gifts and things of that nature. Thank you so much for supporting. Hope you're doing well. And until next time, take it easy.